Welcome everybody to Flowing with the Spiritual Cafe. We've had some technical problems today, and also we're a little bit late today because Rosie, who lives in Mountain Time, which sounds absolutely wonderful, got the time zones mixed up a little bit. She's popped in, and here we are, and everything's wonderful. It's full moon today. I believe, and I'm feeling those energies too. And so here we are right now, and we are so excited. We've been giddy all week. I know George is excited. So I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for your patience for all the listeners that are here now and are coming to listen to the replay. And also, I just want to welcome George, the host. I will talk a little bit more about him in a moment, and then we will welcome Rosie in a moment too. But first, let's just settle, because I certainly need to settle. And I've got a real treat for you here, Rosie and George, and all the listeners. And this is Tamara Buccalow. I had a conversation with her. Was it about a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, when I was thinking of who I'd love to have come in the cafe and speak. And she said, have you thought of inviting Rosie? And I've got your Wisdom Keepers cards. And I thought, she said, I'd love her if she came on the cafe. So a big thank you to Tamara for that. And I did invite you, and you did jump in quite a while back, and we've been looking forward to you being here ever since. And so another synchronicity that happened, and we talk about synchronicities a lot in the Gene Keys, is that she didn't know that you were booked in for today when she sent me this meditation a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't. She sent it to me because she was so excited. She was sat outside in the sunshine. She'd been listening and reading the Gene Keys and the Seven Sacred Seals, and it was early morning. I think she was having a cup of tea. She's so excited. She sent me this email because she had this transition, and I thought it would be really lovely to honor her as she honored you with the meditation. And it's beautiful. It's called Powerful Activation DNA Sacred Gem Light Up Meditation. So let's take a moment to settle, close our eyes, take 3 deep breaths, relax, and just let go and soften, allowing Mother Earth, her wisdom, the rainbow gem angels to hold you in loving light. And as you breathe and relax and let go, feel a shaft of light emanate above you and completely surround and bathe you in a brilliant, bright, incandescent light within, soft glowing. Allow this light to embrace your soul with its nourishing vibrations. Visualize fluorescent sacred gems coming down through the shaft of light and into your crown chakra, opening wide to receive. The first gem to enter your chakra is a deep and blood red garnet. Feel its warmth vibrating and settling into your base chakra, grounding and supporting your heritage and life experiences, your ancestors, and your genius genetic makeup. The next gem to come through the tunnel of light is a deep orange topaz. As it settles within your sacral space of sensuality, feel its gift, a message that your desires are in alignment with divine will of source potential. Notice the powerful metaphysical properties of this gem as it instills faith within you to manifest the desires of your heart. Next, notice a brilliant yellow citrine take its place within your solar plexus. As it settles softly within your gut, Feel warming and healthy rays of golden light soothe and restore your constitution, your radiance and health. Rays of sunshine give light to the shadows of disease, anger, fear, stress, and replaces it with personal power, freeing ourselves of negative input, replacing them with nourishing insights and nutrients and ingredients for our soul as well as our body. The appearance of the emerald makes its entrance into your heart chakra, sparkling enormously with facets and abundance of every shade of green you can imagine. The ability for the human heart to love is limitless within expansion. The more space it is given, the more it grows. The heart speaks of the truth of love, that it is everything and everyone. A huge lapis lazuli next finds space in your throat chakra, the space of communication, self-expression. The lapis synchronizes the body and mind and spirit and enhances your inner wisdom and your inner strength, harmonizing your chakra connections as you perceive and receive your truth and the truth of others, and then speaks your truth. Now notice your third eye is gently kissed by the lovely lavender rays of a deep indigo purple. Visualize amethyst as it catches and filters light in its descent from above and into your ajna. In its soft and supple depths of perception, it produces clarity within inner knowing. Its deep indigo purple magnifies and radiates protection, creating a protective shield of spiritual light all around your body, allowing purification, filtering, purifying, filtering, and processing into understanding and gaining foresight. Breathe into your crown chakra. Here is a diamond filling up the tube of light as it spins above the top of your head, showering vibrating rainbow light, connecting you to source and your core, invisible, immaculate, and illuminating, reflecting strength and integrity as it shines in brilliance to all humanity. Source to soul is the message it brings. It brings the message to all who seek it and is activated through sharing it with others. Take 3 deep breaths. When you're ready, open your eyes, maybe stretch, roll your shoulders, come back to the present moment. Thank you, Tamara. Transmission during a Gene Keys contemplation outside in the sunshine. Okay, so that's lovely. So now I would just like to welcome George Freeman. And George Freeman is a lover of life and being human. He has a passion for consciousness, He has a passion for consciousness cultivation by allowing nature to present him with an animal. You can see the giraffe there in the background. Then he cross-references with Gene Keys' Dream Arc and uses the 64 audios to distill his consciousness. When his heart expands and tears roll, he knows that a breakthrough has happened. This method of contemplation has allowed George to experience so many profound synchronicities. He refuses to keep track, but is committed to trusting the mystery of life to unfold in the most perfect and divine way. George sums up the Gene Keys in one sentence. If you don't see grace in all, you don't see grace at all. Grace. So George is grace. George is coming to you through the gateway of compassion. And I'm Akushi Angel, Rainbow Vibration, Angel Minister, Cafe founder, and so excited. I've signed up for the course, and my new mantra has been let go and let Rosy. So over to you, George.
So we have Rosy Aronson, Ph.D., who is an artist, author, blossoming guide with a master's in Expressive Arts Therapy and Doctorate in Intuitive Listening and the Creative Arts, an avid permission giver, pressure dissolver, and embracer of the unknown. Rosy believes we are literally designed to blossom, and the more each of us radically trusts, honors, and expresses our true nature, the more magic we can create together. Rosy has created the 64 Faces of Awakening, the Wisdom Keeper's Oracle Deck and Inner Guidebook, the 64 Faces of Awakening Coloring Book, and the Wisdom Wheel of Integrity course and workbook, which she'll be talking about today. To reflect on essential healing archetypes that lie at the foundation of our universe. She has also authored the Design to Bloom Foundational Course and Creative Workbook in Human Design, the Design to Bloom Resource Book, the Walking a Fine Line, How to Be a Professional Wisdom Keeper in the Healing Arts course and book, and A Tale of Serendipity, a prelude to a grand archetypal tale. Her deepest intention is to provide empowering tools for people to awaken to their gifts, walk with integrity, and bloom in their authentic selves. Rosy, welcome.
Who is that person? Oh, thank you. Thank you both so much for having me here. And now I understand why you call it the spiritual cafe. Like I feel so relaxed now after that beautiful, beautiful meditation and such a beautiful introduction. And you've been so sweet. Because I was late. I was late. So anyway, we can talk more about that later, but yes, so I am so grateful to be here.
We're so grateful you're here.
Yeah, right. So tell us about the Wisdom Wheel of Integrity, the course that you have coming up.
Okay. Well, let me just say something a little bit, because I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking a lot about integrity because it's sort of like a forever contemplation for me. And one thought that came to me was that sometimes for me, I feel like most in my integrity when I feel authentic and alive, in what I'm saying or what I'm doing. And it's been kind of interesting for me to be interviewed about this course several times, because it's meant that I've had to talk about the course several times. And some people, there are some people who are just these amazing teachers or authors, and they go and they do their tour and they give the same spiel, and every time they feel alive and authentic when they talk about it. But for me in my life, generally I feel most sort of authentic and alive when I'm discovering something new while I'm talking. Or if I'm creating something, it's through the transformative experience that I feel most alive and authentic. And so in my mind, I think I have connected authenticity with integrity, and I think they are connected. I think we are, a lot of the time when we're feeling authentic, we are in our integrity. But sometimes there's a deeper integrity. So for example, when I need to talk about, I hope it's okay that I'm doing this because this is sort of like my ongoing conversation with myself.
It's absolutely fine for you to just be authentic and be yourself and say whatever comes through you. You know, we're flow with you. That's why we call it flowing.
I love that. We're just gonna flow. We're gonna
So,
flow into the talk about this course,
yeah,
because I
wonderful.
feel like I can't just once again just say, okay, this is what this course is about, and we got these sections and blah blah blah, because then I'm not gonna feel like alive. So I have to kind of seduce myself into it by warming myself up and presencing myself with transparency, which actually was the card that I pulled for us today.
Oh, wonderful. My favorite.
Honesty and transparency, which I think also is very connected to integrity. So
Yeah.
when I think about talking about my class more than once in a way that feels aligned with myself, it's going to require that I both bring something new into it, that I talk about it from a new angle to keep it alive, but that I also stay connected to that deeper integrity, which is the commitment and the love and devotion that lies at the bottom of why I'm doing it in the first place, which makes it worth doing things that make me nervous, like being interviewed, talking about things more than once, which doesn't always feel comfortable for me, right? There's sort of like a deeper integrity that's being asked of me to stay true to the vocation beneath kind of the surface moments, which feel best when we're authentic and alive, but sometimes life requires more than feeling comfortable. So it's sort of like this, like to be in my integrity, I need to combine this love of newness, and then also a willingness to do what isn't necessarily comfortable for me because I am in integrity with the deeper mission, the deeper vocation. So I wanted to just presence that for anybody who can relate.
Totally
um,
relate. Totally relate.
okay. Oh, good. I'm
Beautiful.
so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so
I'll try
glad.
not to interject. I'm going to turn my mic off because I'm just, there's so much you're
Oh,
saying.
good.
I want to cry, because I was having exactly those thoughts, the times I've thought to myself, do I really want to be doing this cafe? And then somebody comes in, and somebody else comes in and somebody else comes in and I think, well, and it is a conversation, and then I have to check in that I'm not being, it's not a show, that it's what, that the vision is, well, we all have, is that it's a service. So I get it, and even, well, yes.
Do you want to keep sharing?
I just wanted to say, even when I shared with you, I've been trying to design my angel cards for about, I don't know, 11, 12 years, and I just, I know, and I just haven't been able to. And I finally thought, because, and these are perfect, and I can incorporate them into what I do. And that's why I thought, let it go and let Rosie. Like, they're here. They're here. It's about sharing and coming together. It's not about doing it all on our own. If that's not my skill and my talent, then share my gifts and my skills and my talent with yours. So I just wanted to share that. So let go, and that's why my mantra is let go and let Rosie.
Uh,
Or maybe let go and let the wisdom keepers.
there you go.
And including the 65th card, for those who don't know, which is a mirror card, which, there you go, which is that you are the wisdom keeper that you're looking for, beautiful Akushi. And you could bring, nobody can use these cards like you can. Like you're really integrate. This is also a part of integrity, right? It's integrating our gifts with each other and allowing the genius of you to combine in totally, unpredictable, magical ways with something that came through me. So we're collaborating. And like nothing makes me happier than when people find their own creative way in to whatever it is that I create. I don't want to create little mini Rosies. It's bad enough to have to be Rosie myself. I would never wish this on anyone. But that I'm so grateful that you feel resonant enough with these cards that it ignites your own creative aliveness.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for the the fine tuning there, and that's what integrity is about, isn't it? The fine tuning is in that, let go and let the wisdom keep us, because then it is a collaboration. It's all of us. It's George, it's yourself, it's me, and it's all the other people out there that are resonating with this, that has come through from source. So thank you.
Yes.
I want to take it a little step into the dream arc, Rosie, because I just turned around and looked at my altar, and I seen this right here.
Oh.
That's the snail, and is the shadow of the 59th. And so, yes, and it just lights my heart up. But yesterday, I was on my way to about 10 minutes away from here, and I was trying to get there quick, and herring flew in front of me, and I didn't mean to hit it, but I didn't see it in time, and it just, I almost feel like I'm gonna cry, but it's just one of those things. It's nature showed up in a very profound way there, and but it's very intimate too, because it definitely takes you right inside and brings all the emotions out. And this happened to me one other time. I was angry at a job location, and I was driving home, and a deer ran right into the side of the car. And I wasn't into animal totems back then, but that is the 22nd gene key of graciousness. And so I knew that deer sacrificed its life to make me look inside and show me a higher perspective. Which
has now become your whole motto, your whole grace.
Yes. I mean, this draft behind me, the replay of last week will tell you the story of that, but it was really based on somebody's opinion. And then little kids were drawing, my nieces were drawing pictures of drafts later that day to show me that there was a bigger picture, that, farsightedness. And I tell you, I bawled my eyes out. I just bawled my eyes out. And being here right now is such a synchronicity, because I'm so deep in the mystery of the dream arc, and you're the collaborator and the artist of it. So it's just beautiful.
Wow.
And the 59th, I just, the snail and the herring yesterday. I just have to see a gorilla. Does anybody have a gorilla? That's the, yeah, there you go.
For you. Wow.
Oh, goodness.
Thank you for both. Thank both of you for being so open. Like, I feel the spirit of the transparency and honesty in you. And I think if we're going to make it through the times ahead, we're going to need to both be honest with each other and with ourselves, and not hide anything from ourselves. Because a part of integrity has to do with wholeness and embracing all aspects, the light as well as the dark, the light inside of the dark that sometimes can show up inside of kind of light communities, light focused communities. And I'm just thinking about last night. Now, where are you, George?
I'm in just north of Orlando, Florida.
Okay, so you're in the States. Okay, so you're probably aware that there was a debate last night between two of our two interesting men who are candidates in the race for presidency. And I was watching it. I was in debate about whether I should actually expose myself, like to just ingest this phenomenon. But I put it on my computer screen in like a little small square, and I had I was listening to it, and I was on the phone with my wonderful sister, who I love so much, and we're very similar. She's a psychologist. She's very spiritually oriented. She's a yoga teacher. And so we would listen for a minute, and then we would process our feelings for about 20 minutes. And then we would listen again. And something that was kind of interesting, and I think this is going to loop back around to what we were just talking about in terms of transparency and honesty. But what was interesting for us to watch was that we each had kind of different integrity trigger points, like things that would happen on the screen that would like touch us in different ways. And my sister is super attuned to the energetic of bullying, of like blatant oppression. And not that I'm not totally tuned into that, but it doesn't get under my skin in the same way that that covert bullying does. For me, it's more about, like, I'm very tuned into when someone appears to have high principles, but underneath something else is happening. And there's a lack of ownership, a lack of awareness. So it's sort of like I have a hypocrisy trigger, which I have kind of, even more than kind of held other people to that standard, I've been holding myself to that standard my entire life. And I think that's part of my fascination with the shadow, and constantly looking inside, like, okay, so where is the Trump in me? Where is the Biden in me? And, you know, I think that this is something that I'm noticing too, as we're in a path of evolution, or we're in a path of improvement, of perfecting of the integrity, improving upon what comes before. Let me just think, if I'm just losing my thought here, because I have so many different thoughts here. Like, it's important that we just give me 1 second. Something about honesty and evolution. Oh yeah, this is what it is. Okay, that it gets increasingly subtle. That's kind of what I want to say, that it gets increasingly subtle, the ways in which we are living out the very thing that we project onto the other as bad. So for example, there are a lot of people who can be looking at someone like Trump and say, oh, he's bad because he has all these values that are not, you know, they're not, and clearly he's not living from his heart. Let's just say that. But a lot of people who have wonderful values and don't like Trump, they're fantasizing about his assassination. Right? So they're kind of, that's happening inside of them. Like, how can we get rid of him? How can we eradicate him? When in a way, they're not acknowledging that he is arising, because there's a collective readiness for all of us to face that part of ourselves that lives inside. And then on top of that, there's me coming with that opinion about humanity's readiness to own the inner Trump. And there's an arrogance in that as well. So there's kind of like this spiraling in over and over and over again, to find areas where there is like a tendency to project out what lives inside. And what I've been noticing is I've been kind of thinking about this integrity thing, or this perfecting thing. Like, there's this perfectionism in me that wants to be hypocrisy free. And there's an arrogance in that. There's no way I will ever be hypocrisy free. And so this is kind of where, like, when I think about integrity, at some point, the perfecting process kind of dissolves into what I think your motto, George, is all about, which is this, like, opening up to the perfection of everything, including our very humbling human evolutionary process, where none of us have this down. None of us have the answer, you know. And for me, like, integrity it's a dance. And sometimes I'm working towards improving and deepening and facing and being honest. And sometimes it's also about letting go of having to improve anything, and trusting that even myself at my worst moments, even world leaders at their worst moments, may be playing a divine role that I cannot understand with my small little, you know, peanut brain, that I need to surrender to. And so how do we do that dance? Because we don't want to surrender so much that we're so busy either like looking at our navels or trusting in light and love and God, that we don't act, that we don't sometimes insert ourselves as the imperfect beings that we are and say, you know, this has to stop. This is not okay. You know, there are human rights that are being violated, and I need to step up, and I need to take the risk and speak out, right? Sometimes we need to do that, but we also need to make sure that we're not so busy asserting our goodwill on the world, you know, that we're losing that trust in life itself. right? Like like there's the self-trust, the courageous self-trust, which is a part of the wisdom wheel of integrity, which gives us that courage and that power to move through, break free of our conditioning and speak and hold our truth. And then there's the reverent surrender on the other side, that trust in life itself and the beautiful unfoldment of life, and that humility towards that it's so much greater and more beautiful and magical and mystical than anything we can understand. And it includes our imperfections, right? It includes evolution, right? So there's also, and I'll stop talking soon, but there's this thing about, another thought I had in the shower this morning was, like, there's sometimes like I'll look back at something I said, and I'm sure like after this interview, I'm going to be like, oh my God, what did I say? Why did I say that? And I'll think, oh, I wasn't quite in my integrity in that moment. But when I do that, I'm not actually seeing the integrity of evolution, like in each of us evolving. Like there is an integrity in our evolution, which includes our mistakes, or supposedly our mistakes. I mean, who here would be who they were if we didn't screw up a million times over and learn from that? So for me, integrity is remembering that, is constantly reminding myself of that, so that I can have a blanket of forgiveness over the hot mess that I can be and that life can be. So yeah, that was my little thing there. I had like a total brain freeze, I gotta say, have you ever had that experience before where you go totally blank in the middle of a thought?
Often.
Really?
Often. I just want to come in quickly here and say that, do you know, I'm so passionate about this. I haven't got the Gene Key 18 integrity in my life path or in my human design, and yet this is like, for me, one of the main contemplations of my life, being brought up Catholic, being a 29 devotional being 3 times in my chart, wanting to, and falling in love with Jesus, and the big shout out for me was, he who is without sin cast the first stone. I rebelled against the Catholic Church at 17 and went into esoteric. Then I found the angel ministry, which was all faiths. And then from that, I found the Gene Keys in human design. I've done Reiki and other things in between. However, and I was, so I'll keep it short, but I'm so excited. And so I was so passionate with this because the way through my life, I've been really trying to be in integrity, and especially as an ordained minister in the angel ministry. So I have the title Reverend, which is about being in with your integrity, no matter where you are and where you go. However, I was brought up in a dysfunctional family, I'm sure we all were, and I'm dyslexic, so I had a lot of issues as a child and a teenager because I hadn't got a clue what was going on. I was a brilliant actress, so I pretended I was. But, you can only pretend for so long. And it caught me up in the end. Fantasy being my culture, Gene Key. And so 2 years ago, the last mask came off. Well, I'm beginning to be the real me. I've had a few hard life lessons and awakenings. However, that was the last one. And where I'm going with this is that integrity. So I've looked back on my life and I've been integral in that I've been real. So I've tried in my life to turn the other cheek and be all light and love and people have just walked all over me until that rage has come out. And then I've lost it with, say, the person's been abusing me for ages and they've gone, call yourself a reverend, call yourself light. And I've thought, and now I'm starting to realize that, well, that's real as well. If you are pushing me to a point where I go, stop, maybe not in those terms, then, I'm getting more to understand that integrity for me is to just not be in that energy field. And so I love this. Integrity is beautiful. And I have a friend, she's listening today, Amani, and she's quite activist about Black Lives Matters, and she helped me. She's Black herself, she's from Detroit, beautiful friend, angel minister, and I've been in this and I've mentioned it before, conflict as, can you be spiritual and be an activist? And Midi came on the show and she helped me look at that as well. And I am now thinking, well, I'm actively changing inside out. So I'm decolonizing within, as many would say. I'm clearing up. We, in our Flowing with the Spiritual Cafe, we have all the members, we have a little sharing where we're constantly being honest with each other, not always saying what the other one wants to hear, but that hurt me because but we know, and the other just holds the space. We're clearing out through that so that we can hold the space and we can be honest and we can be in our integrity. And sometimes we have to come away for a few days because we've triggered something in the other that we are going through in ourselves, and we're learning this. So I'm really with you here, Rosie. Thank you so eloquently and passionately bringing that in.
Maybe not so eloquently, but definitely passionately. I love to hear your story and your background. And I wanted to say, I mean, this might be a good segue into me being a little bit more linear in my description of the course, because you said something that I think would be really nice for me to just say. Okay, so basically in this class, this is my very, very first live course where I'm helping people work specifically with the Wisdom Keepers Oracle deck. And it is really for people who want to explore what it means. Yes, that's the deck. What it means to engage in compassionate action or sacred activism, but like bringing these two worlds together that to some of us have felt like oxymorons, but actually need each other, especially now. And to really find ways to support people to find their own right way of engaging with the world, right? Because for some people, it is about getting on the streets and holding a sign or doing a sit-in or practicing nonviolent protests, right? For other people, it might be having a spiritual cafe where you invite people in who know something about these things and you share your experience, you ask questions, you allow yourself to open up to learn, and you give a platform for people to talk about it. For some, it may be to actually go out into nature and commune with the animals who are some of the most oppressed beings on our planet, who definitely need to have their voices heard and honored and the wisdom that they carry to be proliferated, right? So there are many ways in which each of us can engage in compassionate action, give voice to the voiceless. And it's really about finding our right way, because if you're out there fighting and that's not necessarily your way, that's not going to have the same, you might actually create more interference in the morphogenic field than you are creating increased harmony. Right. So part of this has to do with helping people align with their own right way of engaging in compassionate action and compassion towards the self. And for me, I like to call in the wisdom keepers because I don't consider myself to be an expert. For anyone else, much less myself, I use the wisdom keepers to guide me as well. And what I'm hoping to do in this class is to encourage each person to gather a council of wisdom keepers for themselves to help them engage in that integrity dance in their own life, whatever the context of that life is, whatever the gifts they have as unique beings, whatever challenges that they struggle with as unique beings. And so I will be calling forth collective, like wisdom keepers that will sit in different seats around the wheel for the collective. And then each person will be calling in very specific wisdom keepers that's going to sit on their personal wheel of integrity. And so I'm including 5 different positions inside of this wheel. The central position has everything to do with the creative spirit, improvisation, being adaptive, being flexible, honoring our own uniqueness. Because in the end, that's the heart of everything. Like we have to trust that intuitive, creative spark inside of us that knows when it's time to reach here or here or here, and what the dance is going to be like. It's like that core stability. And right now in the world, I think we all need to ground ourselves in creativity, because none of the structures we've been relying on, the routines, the customs, the rituals, the institutions, are going to hold us anymore. We need to be held by some deep, deep trust in our capacity to creatively respond to whatever is happening in the moment. So that's what I consider to be the wisdom keeper that will be sitting in the heart of our wheel. Then comes the seed of loving kindness. Because if we don't have loving kindness, it doesn't matter how fantastic our values are. It doesn't matter how wonderful our principles are. If there's no kindness in our hearts, what's the point? You know, and I've engaged in political activism where there was a huge deficit of kindness. And I just felt energetically we weren't doing any good. We weren't helping. And so, and I talk a lot about that in the course, like the subtleties of that as well. And it's not just being kind to other people, but it's also being kind to ourselves. Because sometimes when we have very high principles, we expect too much of ourselves. You know, we don't just use those high standards on other people, but we're constantly beating ourselves up for being, you know, privileged, or, you know, being too ignorant, or being too selfish, or not enlightened enough, or whatever the thing is that we beat ourselves up with. You know, even if we're beating ourselves up with crystals, right? We're not being nice to ourselves. So there has to be a culture of kindness around integrity. But that kindness, and this is what made me talk about this, Akushi, because you were talking about, you know, how you had been so kind and so identified as a kind person that when your boundaries were finally crossed, it was like this monster came out. And then you were held to account, like, hey, I thought you were supposed to be the spiritual person. You can't get angry. You can't have boundaries. And so I wanted to say that the balancing, the checks and balances to loving kindness is self-respect. Because if we don't have healthy self-respect, our kindness turns into codependency, it turns into people pleasing, it turns into complacency, right? So these two things need to be connected. And so part of integrity has to do with respecting ourselves, having boundaries, taking care of ourselves. So many people I know who are sacred activists or activists, they burn out. So many people who are healers burn out because they're not taking care of themselves. The kindness has no bounds and it leaks out of their system until there's nothing left for themselves. I have experienced that so much in my life that this particular wisdom keeper is going to help me a lot. The one that comes around self-respect. And then come the other two that we've kind of already touched on. One is courageous self-trust. And for me, this is very connected to human design. It has to do with being willing and able to break through our conditioning to speak and act from our truth, even if nobody gets it, even if people think we're crazy, even if half the culture cancels us, even if it terrifies us. That kind of courage, which sometimes also means, you know, being willing to be seen as an angry person when you're normally seen as a very loving, healing, forgiving person. That takes a lot of courage to allow the world to perceive us how it perceives us. For me, anytime I walk into the projection field, anytime I enter a context like this, it takes a certain amount of courage because one thing, I have no control over what's going to come out of my mouth, and I have no control over how what I say will be received, how it will be perceived. And so that takes courage. So there's that sort of authentic speaking truth, sometimes speaking truth to power, sometimes not being seen as the loving beings we like to be seen as, in order to stick up for those who are not being respected in society, for example, or to stick up for ourselves when we're in an abusive situation and it's time for us to leave, you know. And then the thing that balances that out is what we were talking about, and which I think your life motto, George, speaks so much to, which is reverent surrender, right? Because the courageous self-trust has a little bit of like self in it, right? It's self-trust. This is my truth. I don't think that is right. And I'm going to insert myself and I'm going to make sure that stops. I'm going to say no, I'm going to set a boundary. I'm going to speak out. So there's a lot of I in there. And there's a lot of there's a lot of faith that what is right for me is right for the world. And I think when we are aligned, generally that is true. You know, that what is truly correct for us is in alignment with the cosmos. I think that is generally true, but it's not always true. And sometimes the cosmos has something in store for us, or in mind for us, or in heart for us, that we cannot comprehend. And so there's the self-trust, and then there's the trust in life, which is what I was talking about before. The trusting in the magnificent mystery unfolding that is perfect. Even when the self-trust, courageous part of us can see everything that is so not perfect. And that paradox can live and dance together, just like this paradox can live and dance together. So for me, integrity is a giant paradox dance. So those are the themes that we're going to be exploring together in the course. And part of it will be me reflecting, just kind of, you know, riffing off of these themes myself, picking cards for the collective. And part of it will be other people, everybody, picking their own cards and sharing their own insights and exploring through interaction and through all kinds of exercises, from meditation to watching, you know, a comedic video that makes me laugh every time. It's gonna have a lot in it. And I'm really excited about the group of people, including you, who are gathering for this, because integrity is not a sexy subject. It's not like I want to lose weight, or I want to become enlightened, or I want to make a lot of money. It's like, no, I want to walk in integrity. Not many people are really going for that in the way that the two of you are. So the group of people who are drawn to this are some very deep, loving, honest, courageous people. And I can feel that. So I feel so honored to get to facilitate a process where I know I'm going to learn a lot from all of the wisdom keepers who are going to be gathering together with us. So that's my little talk about the class.
I was going to say that I love that. You know, I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it. I signed up for it as soon as I seen it. Of course, I wanted to do it for the early bird special, but Rosy, you've given us a link that I think Akushi posted in the Spiritual Cafe to allow the to allow that same discount to be available for the listeners of this cafe right now. So that's beautiful. I appreciate that. And then I wanted to give another plug for my 18. So my 18, line 3, is in my culture. And I'm really grateful for that, because it makes me, I think about it, you know, it's in the pearls. So it's like I've gone through the wounding and unwound the wound, unlearned, you know, I've distilled the programs and the matrix and the blueprints that weren't mine, you know, so I'm being in integrity to somebody else until I get on the other side of that core wound, you know, and I find out who I really am. And so as an 18-3, I show up for culture and society and interact with total integrity, you know, and then it just becomes divine perfection. And, you know, that's, you know, like this thinking about this right here, being that integrity is, we're transiting the 18th gene key right now. And then this right here is coming into play. You know, I think about it and I'm like, this was planned eons ago. We don't know. We have to trust in the mystery of how life unfolds. But this is so divine. This is so beautiful. This is so perfect. So if anybody is thinking about living with integrity, click that link and get your deal, because we are going to be there, Akushi and I. And of course, Rosy is going to be speaking. So I'm just so excited that you are the person that I got to host as my first co-host. I mean, it's just so beautiful. I mean, I've been so head over heels deep in the animal totems. I don't even get to walk outside of my door. And I look up and there's a hawk right there. I mean, I go to the 43rd gene key and it's all about not knowing. So that's the thing, you know, you have to sit in the discomfort of not knowing so you can actually pull up the nuggets that are in there that can cultivate that consciousness to a higher level for your own integrity to reveal itself. You know, I mean,
hallelujah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about living an extraordinary life now, right? All about it, living an extraordinary life now. Like my hat.
And
With a little help from our friends.
a little help from our friends. And also finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big one for me too.
So.
You know, it's interesting. First of all, I want to say thank you for mentioning the discount, which is $55. So it's a huge discount. So click on the link, and I don't know, you know, if there's, I think there's some spaces left on your course. So click on the link, and I just also wanted to say, yes, I have to say that George, when I offered him to be the co-host with you, he has been excitable for how long? 2-3 weeks. When he first found out. So yeah, it's wonderful. And also, you were talking about the imperfection in the perfection, and that, you know, I've been contemplating this Gene Key 18 and integrity, and just that, since, and I didn't click, because I don't always click straight away with things, that integrity linked in with the collective world theme, which is integrity as the gift at the moment. And so I was really contemplating it deeply this last few days, and it's so it's just made me look into my childhood and my parenting and my environment when I was a child, and revisit the trauma that I had being a dyslexic child, not knowing I was a dyslexic child. And I'm saying this, it's not because I'm harping onto the shadow or holding onto the trauma, but I am getting into the nitty gritty of it, which is what integrity is about, yeah, and which I'm learning from listening to you and listening to the Gene Keys. And this was so healing for me to do, because I'm ready to do it, and it's in the World Theme Collective, so it just divine timing, the right timing for me to be able to look at this. I've never really looked at this before, because I was such a good actress, and I hid it, and I hid this wound, and I shared it with Flow with the Spiritual Cafe. It's a long sharing, because I went through the shadow, and then and by just sharing it, suddenly I was in the gift, and I was able to switch that switch, and really forgive myself for the shame I felt for not knowing what was going on, because I couldn't read the questions and I couldn't understand the way that people were talking. And I started to research about dyslexia and how children, and then we go back to, you know, people, and the fact that I was a really bright student. So, you know, I was the first one with my hand up, and I was first in maths. But when it came to the exams, because I couldn't understand the way that the education system had laid out the question, I felt, my self-esteem went. And I see how that then went through my life, that I was almost apologizing for. But this is what I wanted to say. So I've hidden myself, you know, and my relationships, being a 2-4, have helped me to learn about integrity and how to communicate and how to have better social skills. And being bright, it was the esoteric teachings that led me to be able to get competent and confident, being a 14 and a 29 in my life. But I was frightened of speaking. I was really scared of speaking out loud and showing myself on the screen because of the trauma. And yet it's interesting, and this is where I'm talking about how imperfection, arrogance is in my core wound. And in my attraction field, which goes up to my life's work, I am a 62.1, which is impeccability and wanting to get that voice out. So I had to learn all those knocks in life. I mean, I think back and think I was quite confident, a good actress, pretty, and, wore the mask. And had I not had this way that I had to step back and learn life first, then I wouldn't have been the person I am now, with the depth. So when I speak, it's from a place of real life experience and inner authority, rather than just throwing out lots of information from. And I think that's great too. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying, for me, with my arrogance in my core wound and that I had to clear, and I'm clearing up, it's perfect in that it gave me that disability, so I could because devotion is who I am and what I want. So to really clear out for me any prejudice, and of course I have it, just as you were saying, but it's put me on the right path to really caring about those, about everybody who's not doing it in one way. We're all different and unique, and so they call it creative mind now, and I love that. And so the reason why I mention this and taking a lot of time in this cafe to say this is because the integrity, this cafe today, and the whole unraveling, the golden thread, the 18 in the gene key, the perfectionist that I was. I was a perfectionist, dyslexic, so it was so much conflict. Just to let that go and be me. And the integrity here is that I am just being me. And if people don't like it, okay. And if somebody gets something from it, wonderful. But firstly, I'm becoming anchored in who I am, and my voice is coming out. So thank you for allowing that to flow from your initiating conversation, and the integrity and the wisdom keepers today.
So beautiful. So beautiful. I don't know how much time we have because there's so much in what you said, but I feel like you just kind of modeled for us what a contemplation on integrity can do and where it can take us, all the way back into the present, and to a place of actual, like, genuine appreciation for who you are and permission to be who you are. It's so beautiful. Thank you for that courage. And I have a lot of thoughts about dyslexia. My husband is has been dyslexic his whole life. And he's a lot of the people I know who have dyslexia are some of the most intuitive, creative, talented people that I've ever met. And it could be partly because they were compensating for what was lacking, but it could be that they were protected from a certain kind of linear boxed in thinking in order to liberate the gifts that they were meant to embody throughout their life. That's another one of those interesting kind of dances there. But I have such deep respect for the path that you've taken. And the other thing I wanted to say is a lot of the dyslexics that I know ended up being in radio, on television, with visual, with sound, with music, with performing. And there are ways to perform and hide behind the characters. And there are also ways to engage in self-expression or performance where you're releasing more and more of self, right? It's like when you have such a huge repertoire inside of you, as long as you can own that this is also me, right? The character is also me. Yeah. So anyway, I had so many thoughts about what you were sharing, but thank you for the courage that you've shown throughout your whole life. And I hear that from both of you in different ways. I have a lot of respect for you.
Rosy, I just want to thank you. Beautiful, really. Thank you for that. I just wanted to say that we have some listeners, and just so there's Phoebe Salter who says yay, and Pauline Kutajar, hello beautiful people. Kit Spencer, I've known a while. She did ask a question. I think she asked, oh bless her, where is it? I saw it. I think she asked, yeah, when you were talking about integrity and kindness, she asked the question, what if you're being kind and the other person doesn't appreciate it? And then she said, it's okay, you've answered it. So
Oh,
that's
that's a good
great.
question.
Yeah. Tamara is watching. Lainey Steiner is watching. Pauline, she loves it. She loves it. We're all wisdom keepers, says Tamara. And Tamara's looking forward to the dream arc. George, compassion. And Amani Grace sends celebration and prayers. And Miriam Stuckman is watching too. Robin, one of our hosts, is watching. Roxanne Smith is watching. Eileen Kelly is watching. Listening. And yeah, Robin Cabral is watching, and Teti Nurhayati is watching. Divine Timing, yes, says Robin. So yeah, I just wanted to shout out some of our lovely listeners there to show you that you are deeply loved and appreciated here. Whatever, if you've got some more things that you want to share and say, we've got 10 minutes or more. We're flowing here.
Okay. Well, one thing I did want to say was that I wanted to say something about my being late. So, because I had a mix up in my mind, I thought that in Mountain Time, 4 o'clock your time was 10 o'clock my time. And so I've been really looking forward to this and planning this and all that stuff. And, my sort of conditioned brain says, to be in your integrity, you show up on time. You don't make people wait for you. You follow through on your commitments. And I went through like this whole, like when I got a little email or a little message from you saying, hey, are you okay? We're waiting for you. Like I had, those like stomach drop moments and you're like, oh no, what have I done? And so I went through a little bit of a like integrity, healing process around just being late. And I'm bringing it into the ordinary for people to show how these themes show up in like the smallest ways. And I thought, okay, so yeah, ideally I would be on time. I wouldn't have made that mistake. But right now, to be in my full integrity, I need to find a way to forgive myself for being human and just show up. Otherwise I'm just going to be, and you guys were so in your integrity that you were very forgiving of me. And yeah, so anyway, it was just one of those small moments. Oh, and then there was the question before we got on, like, oh, do we just say it was a technical glitch or do we out Rosy and say that, no, it was actually a Rosy glitch? And so again, it's another moment to say, no, it would be more in my integrity to be honest about what happened and to let people know, I'm human. And not have people cover for me or, protect the world from seeing my humanity. Right. And so I'm just giving like small examples of how we get to dance with these themes all the time. And we get to go deeper and deeper. And sometimes, integrity, the definition of it, how we relate to it, it changes. It can change from moment to moment. So that's something I really want to encourage people, whether they take the class or not, to just, have that be like a running contemplation in your life. Like, okay, so does this feel like I'm in my integrity right now? What can I do to be even more in integrity? And even get to the point where you realize, well, actually, to be even more in my integrity, I need to accept that I'm not perfect and not do anymore and not improve anymore. Just get off the self-improvement trip in general, because when people are so consumed by the need to improve the self or to analyze the self, they're like stuck in the navel. the mystery is unfolding all around them and within them. They don't notice it and they can't respond to it. And if we're waiting to be perfect before we act, before we engage with the world, then we're never going to do anything. You know, like if you look at any of the great human rights leaders, these were not perfect people. These were humans. These were humans. And I think it's quite sad right now that we're holding our leaders up to impossible standards, you know, so that the leaders are forced to push their humanness underground, turn them into shadows, instead of just be open about them, you know, and that's what kind of creates more and more of this sort of nuttiness that's happening right now. So yeah, how can I be more in my integrity and allow that to include, like, how can I allow for even more of myself to be and express itself? And how can I, you know, just not have to be so goddamn perfect all the time? And I'm sorry for saying it like that, but I think that's a big part of it. I can't believe I just swore.
That's great. Goddamn perfect is great because, you know, I am often trying to be goddamn perfect, you know, because this what I really do in the depth and deepest part of me want to be of service and light from inside out. And I'm human. And I think I've given my human self such a hard time by not accepting. It's even when I put a post out, I'm dyslexic for goodness sake. I am going to make mistakes. I'm going to get my A's and my B's and my D's and here, there, and everywhere. I'm going to send the same thing out. And it's just, and I spent so long sitting there and I can have corrected it 10 times and I still send it out with a mistake. And then it goes out and I think, oh, and I'm learning to let it go. I don't think people are too worried, are they? If I think they can still read it, and it's all this thing about being perfective and looking professional and all of that rubbish, you know. Just be real. Just everyone, you know, we're all just human beings. Everyone just come out with your heart. There's so many since I've opened up, since I've softened, since I am softening. I go out in the world and see all these beautiful people that are all shapes, sizes, colours, expressing things in different ways and, you know, wearing rags and wearing colourful, expensive clothes. And yet it's what they say and how they are to me that really matters. Yeah. And so I think I'm saying from what you're saying, Rosy, is that to walk my talk, I've got to just allow myself to be seen for as I am, you know, real and raw and ordinary, exceptionally ordinary.
And beautiful. Were you going to say something, George?
Well, I just was thinking back, you know, how perfection by somebody else's standards leads, you know, sometimes people down a slippery slope of lack of integrity, and until they come to their own realizations. You know, I had a father that was perfectionist, so I couldn't ask questions. In fact, I was suppressed by just doing it because I said. And if I asked questions, I was called question mark because I asked too many questions back in my early day. And so I stopped, you know, pretty much asking questions and just became a conformist. So, I mean, total lack of integrity, but you don't realize that until you unwind the wound later in life. And so for me, you know, I realized when I finally sort of opened my eyes to life and a bigger picture, it was question everything is my favorite quote, you know, from Buddha. And out of chaos, a star is born. So it's like we need that polarity, that dichotomy of our life experience, so we can tune in to the integrity that comes from within when we embrace the wholeness of who we are. So
beautiful. Truth.
Truth.
I love that. It's the first time I've heard that, George. Out of chaos, a star is born.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, I believe a Charlie Chaplin quote, but maybe a few other, maybe a Lao Tzu quote. I mean, I'm not sure exactly. I think I heard it phrased from Lao Tzu, but if you Google it, you'll see Charlie Chaplin also used it back in the day. So very funny guy. And that I actually thought about being a comedian. Maybe I'll be a Gene Key comedian. My 24 life's work. So I sort of go by the AKA Gene Key Junkie. My latest addiction. And now it's the animal totems.
We need Jinky's humor.
Well, we can't be so serious. We just came through the 46 transit, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we need to lighten up, delight. So I created the dream arc, the food arc, the Gene Keys food arc, and it's the chocolate cake. It's the gift of the 46.
Oh.
It's delight. And I said it's from my living library.
Is there a food arc for the 18?
Oh, for the 18. No, but I do have one for the 59. The shadow is a green M&M. The shadow is a green M&M. I don't know. I just thought about, back in the day when we were younger, we would like give out green M&Ms because, oh, this will make you horny. But I don't know. That was like back in my day. I don't know if anybody else, ever, so I just thought, well, that's the shadow of the 59th right there. So anyway, from my living library.
We'll keep working on it.
Uh-oh.
So how are we doing on time? Is there anything else?
If you'd like to, I just say when your course is, it starts on the 8th of October.
Yes.
And it's 10 sessions. So yeah, and I will post the link on, I think the link's in the post, but tomorrow when I just edit this video and then send it out here, there and everywhere. I'd just like to say it's been a wonderful conversation, juicy conversation. I'm sorry, George, you couldn't get a word in, but what you said is absolutely wonderful. Love you, George. Phoebe says. Chocolate cake, yes, says Robin. You crack me up, says Phoebe. George, you're awesome and raw. So you've got a fan club there. There is a dance of inner intuitive, says Maria Kelly. So I'm just so grateful that you jumped in off the mountain and was late. I think that was perfect for me personally. Yeah, I feel I to be honest, I could have cried all the way through this show, cafe, inspirational cafe. I just want to say thank you, George, for holding the space and sharing your questions and your wisdom and your elegance and your giraffe and your enthusiasm and your hat. And also, Rosie, I want to say thank you so much. And if we just say blessing to all the people who have listened, thank you, we're deeply grateful. And we hope that you take integrity into your heart. And hopefully we'll see you again in the cafe, Rosie. 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 And we'll all be wisdom keepers by then.
Yeah.
We already are. We're just remembering. We're in process of remembering who we truly are, what we know.
Thank you.
So much love to you both. Yeah. Everybody listening. Thanks for your patience too, people who waited for us.
Thank you.
Click the link. Click the link.
And we'll see you the same time, more or less, next week. Thank you.